One of the most hyped shoes of 2025. We got a preview at the running event, but everyone was asking the same question. Is this a running shoe? Let's break it down. Meet the Nike Pegasus Premium. What's up everybody, I'm Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad Bod. You're watching Rad Dad Bod TV, where we review running shoes. Now today we're going to be reviewing the Nike Pegasus Premium, which is Nike's premium version of their classic Pegasus, which released with the 41 this last year. Now, if it's your first time watching one of my videos, you may notice some timestamps below. Feel free to jump around to the various parts of the review that interest you most, but if you do so, I would sure appreciate if you come back and watch the full thing when you get a second, as I put a lot of time and effort into these videos. And if you like what you see today, hit that like button, leave a comment, let me know what you enjoyed, and if you're not already subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button and turning on notifications so you get notified every time I drop a new video, which is typically Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But for 2025, we've been releasing daily videos. Now, before we dive into any details, just some quick disclaimers and disclosures. I was provided the shoe for free for the purpose of review directly from Nike. That being said, I am not paid. I am not asked to produce any specific content. They do not give me a script, talking points, anything along those lines, and all thoughts are entirely my own. No one gets to watch this video beforehand. Now, with that out of the way, let's get to the review and start with the intended purpose of this shoe. Nike has not been explicitly clear in how this shoe is supposed to be used. It is just known as the premium version of the Nike Pegasus. In 2025, Nike decided to basically condense or simplify their running lines. So instead of having, the Invincible, the Vomero, the Pegasus, the Infinity, all of that, they kind of condensed it into 3 daily training categories. That would be the Pegasus line, the Structure line, and the Vomero line. Now, the Pegasus line is supposed to be the responsive cushioning. And again, all of these fit within a daily training format. And so with this shoe, we're basically looking at a premium daily trainer. Again, not explicitly stated from Nike as far as, hey, you should use it for X, Y, and Z, but just reading through the lines of how they're positioning things in 2025, we can kind of safely assume that it is kind of made for that daily training use. Now, something that I have noticed within these daily training lines is that the icon model, so the Pegasus, the Structure, and the Vomero, are kind of your more standard daily trainers. Now, you may be able to call them max cushion daily trainers for the Vomero line because that is your plush cushioning option. But then with the Plus, that seems to be a little bit of a more lightweight, more responsive option within the lines. So the Pegasus Plus, for example, I look at that shoe as more of an up-tempo shoe, a shoe you can take on workouts if you'd like to. And then with the Premium, again, this is me just kind of reading through the lines. It seems that the Premium models are made a little bit more for potentially the long run. Now, are they a long run workout shoe? What is that? Really, the only defining factors that we get are, hey, these are premium models. They put the premium technology. They're really pushing the envelope with the premium versions in each of these categories. So that's kind of how we're going to look at the shoe, but kind of a spoiler alert for the feel and everything. I feel like the premium kind of coincides really well with long runs. Now, the price point has been really divisive and has sparked a lot of debate online. $210 is where this shoe comes in. So again, that is expensive. And for a long run shoe, this is kind of part of a new potential trend of kind of premium long or premium very cushioned sneakers in the running world. So thinking of the Glycerin Max, the UA Infinite Mega, right? The Pegasus Premium, these are all $200+ shoes that are not necessarily made to go fast so much as just be very comfortable and give you really nice cushioning over time. Along with that, all 3 kind of have premium materials. And so to me, it's kind of the blending of sneakerhead culture and running culture coming together as one. So yes, do I think it is expensive? Absolutely. We'll talk in my final thoughts on whether I feel like the shoe is worth that price, but understand that the shoe did sell out. So basically on launch, it was almost impossible to get. So again, that's where I'm getting like sneaker culture vibes from this shoe. And it's definitely a good looking shoe. So it's not just a performance shoe, but it can very much be a fashion oriented shoe as well. Now, getting to the specs, the shoe comes in at 10.9 ounces and 309 grams. So it is pretty heavy overall. And that's not a surprise given all the different elements they're specifically putting into the midsole. Now, from a stack perspective, you have 45 in the heel, 35 in the forefoot for a 10 millimeter heel to toe drop, which is a high drop shoe, and that's pretty typical with most Nike models, so no real surprise there. The overall stack of 45 is a little bit surprising to me. It doesn't necessarily look like a 45 millimeter shoe to me. Maybe it does to you, but I was a little bit surprised to find that it was kind of super max cushion in that zone. Now, from a fit perspective, this fits pretty typical to a lot of Nike running models. You kind of have a standard heel, you have a fairly narrow to kind of just snug midfoot, and then you have probably a standard toe box overall. Lengthwise, I would say it runs true to size, so I would not necessarily size up or down unless you maybe are looking for a little bit more room in the midfoot and you're okay with the shoe being a little bit long kind of as a trade-off. I find that these fit pretty consistent, I would say, with the Nike Pegasus. The Pegasus Plus I found to be a little bit more accommodating in fit though, so a little bit more snug than the Plus. Now moving to the upper, we have a circular knit mesh, which is kind of this overall mesh, and then you have the mono mesh paneling on the side. Now overall what you're getting here is a very premium feeling upper. You can see that it's very, very airy there in the toe box. The shoe breathes really, really well. Despite kind of having that ventilation, with me running in the winter here in Utah where it's very, very cold, I've been surprised at how these shoes are kind of fairly warm, and that mainly comes down to the cushioning here in the heel. You've got some decent plush cushioning there kind of in the heel cup, heel counter, and then you have a kind of mid to heavyweight tongue that keeps your foot locked in place and is very, very warm. So I do think that these shoes would probably get warm in the summer, and so you may feel that, and for me in particular, I start to notice the weight of a shoe a little bit more as my feet heat up as well. So right now the weight hasn't really bugged me too much, but in the summer when it's hot, maybe my feet are getting a little bit sweaty in these, I may start to notice that a little bit more. Now, one thing that's kind of interesting about this tongue is it's not gusseted, but it is kind of locked down to some extent due to the mono mesh here on the side. It kind of creates this really nice snug feel here in the upper that gives you some really good lockdown in the midfoot. So despite not having a fully gusseted tongue, you do have enough cushion with the tongue, the heel counter, and then that mono mesh midfoot that really keeps you locked in place, so you're not really sliding around in the shoe at all. The upper as a whole, I feel like is really nice. It does fit the premium name, and you get a couple of nice little accents, kind of some of that shine that just kind of gives you a little bit of that luxurious feel. One call out is I'm not a huge fan of the lacing system and the laces themselves. They're not bad necessarily, they just weren't my favorite overall construction, and you know, it's nice, it's easy, you can kind of cinch them down really quick just by pulling, but again, I kind of maybe would have preferred traditional eyelets or something along those lines as opposed to the loops. Now moving to that crazy midsole, so you have 3 of Nike's premium compounds here in the midsole. You have Zoom X, which is a PEBA based foam. It is their racing foam. It is supposed to be very responsive. And next you have a Zoom Air unit, which is full length, and this is the first time that Nike has been able to contour a full length Zoom Air unit to the shape of a foot. So we've seen shoes before, specifically I think it was the Zoom All Out from Nike that did have a full length Zoom airbag, but it was not contoured to the foot, and that made the shoe somewhat erratic, a little bit unstable, uncontrolled, and it wasn't really a great running shoe for most people. Now, you also have the Nike React X foam, which is one of the foams that is used typically in their daily trainers, that is soft yet supportive and has a lot more structure than the 2 different cushionings above that. But you do get 45 millimeters of 3 levels of premium cushioning, which is really cool. And that's one of the huge reasons why the shoe does cost what it costs, is because this is the first time that Nike is implementing a certain tech. Now, how does it feel underfoot? My first mile in the shoe, I feel like the shoe almost had to like break in a little bit. Obviously 1 mile is not a true break-in period, but it was stiff out of the box, but once it got moving, that's where the shoe started to really kind of liven up a little bit. The combination of that Zoom Air unit and that Zoom X foam creates a really bouncy and lively ride. The shoe isn't necessarily like a fast shoe. It's not like you're running in it and you're just exploding off the ground, but the sensation underfoot is very kind of bouncy. And if you've ever run in the alphafly 3, it's not as aggressive and not as punchy and not as fast as that shoe by any means, but that bouncy kind of stride is similar to what you're going to feel in this shoe. That makes sense because you have, again, the Zoom Air unit and the Zoom X on top of that, which is the same kind of experience that you're feeling in the forefoot of the alphafly 3. So again, someone's going to twist my words with that. I'm not saying this is like the alphafly. I'm saying just the general sensation of how it travels through space, how it feels underfoot. It's similar in that experience, but it's going to be a lot more stable. It's going to be a lot slower. It's not going to be like a fast, lightweight shoe. In fact, like I said, I think it's best kind of as a long run shoe, a recovery day shoe, kind of an easy day shoe. I really wouldn't even want to do speed work in the shoe. Another reason for that is because a lot of people were concerned about the Zoom Air unit kind of being exposed there on the outsole and that it could get punctured. Well, it's got a little bit of a harder kind of material there on the bottom that almost acts as a plate, and it makes the shoe a little bit more stiff than you would expect. So that's the thing, is like you can see, you can clearly bend it, but it's not a natural, like the shoe's not really like a super cushy, flexible shoe. It is a little bit rigid, and as such, it also can get a little bit unstable as you run. So just kind of summarizing like the midsole experience, like it's bouncy, it's fun, it is responsive, and you can do like strides in the shoe and it will pick up, but it's a little bit rigid. The Zoom Air unit is a little bit unstable, right? You feel a little bit wobbly in it. And the shoe is heavy, like it's not a super nimble shoe. So it's not a speed work shoe to me. But like utilized as a daily trainer, certainly. You can use it on daily runs, you could use it on city runs, you can use it on long runs, probably not running workouts in it. I may consider doing something like a threshold run or a tempo run in it, but it wouldn't be my shoe of choice for that category in particular. Now moving to the outsole, you have a high abrasion rubber with kind of some of those little nubs, and the outsole as a whole is fine. I mean, it's durable. It kind of gives me Zoom Fly vibes. The thing is, I found that this is a little bit slick. So I've been running a lot in like light snow, light rain, or running on wet roads after rain, running on, you know, some thin like kind of frost on the road that can make it a little bit slick, and this has struggled in that environment. In addition, this has struggled a little bit on my treadmill when I've taken it on my treadmill runs. So the traction on this is a little bit iffy. Just be aware of that. So don't, if you're someone who lives in an area with lots of snow, lots of moisture, you may not want to take it out on those days, but on normal, just dry roads, this is going to do totally fine. You won't have to really worry about it at all in that sense. But this is definitely not a multi-terrain shoe by any means. And again, another call out, that Zoom Air unit, have had no issues or worries with it potentially getting punctured. I live in an area near a lot of farms where there's a lot of just kind of weeds and different things that end up stabbing into my shoes. In fact, frequently I'm pulling little stickers out of the outsoles of my shoes because they get stabbed in there and then I find them later. I don't think that is going to be a puncture risk unless you have maybe like a nail. Like you'd have to step on something pretty sharp, pretty crazy. I don't think a rock or a weed or a stick or anything like that is really going to puncture that. So I know that there is some hesitation from people I've seen kind of on Reddit and stuff. It has not been an issue for me at all thus far. Now, as far as who is this shoe for, this is, again, like I kind of alluded to it, but like this is your running shoe fan, like sneakerhead or former sneakerhead type shoe. Like I'm a former sneakerhead. I grew up playing basketball. I would like collect basketball shoes as a kid. Now that habit kind of went by the wayside as an adult, but as you can see, it's turned into something else with running shoes. So when I saw this shoe and I heard of the release, I saw the full Zoom Air unit, I was pumped for this shoe. Like whether I thought, is it a running shoe? Is it not a running shoe? Whatever, I saw it and I was like, that's really cool. I want that shoe. That is a shoe that I will wear casually after I've put my review miles on because it just looks really cool. It's kind of like the ultimate dad shoe. And so in that sense, I think that's probably your main audience. And I think Nike knew that. I think that's who they were targeting, is like kind of the hype beasts a little bit, like the people who are going to collect shoes. And you can see that also with some of the people that they seeded shoes to for review. A lot of them weren't running shoe reviewers, right? They were like more like fashion reviewers. So I do think that Nike intentionally tried to bleed pop culture, fashion, and running into one with this shoe. And I'll say this is very much a running shoe, right? Some people are like, that's not a running shoe. Like it doesn't, no, it's a running shoe. Clearly I review running shoes, right? I've run in over 100 pairs of shoes over the last 12 months, this is as much of a running shoe as any running shoe that I've run in the last year, but it also definitely kind of ticks some of the boxes of fashion, right? So now, like, so again, who's it for? If you want a shoe that, you know, probably you're using exclusively for long runs or easy runs, but you want it to look good, this is your shoe, right? If you want something kind of like a bouncy overall sensation, this is your shoe, right? I really like this, again, for just daily miles. For long runs, I like something maybe a little bit more nimble, a little bit faster. So I would probably go like the Pegasus Plus or Pegasus over this for a long run, honestly. But this definitely has more cushion in the forefoot, a little less ground feel than those other two Pegasus models, and it very much is premium. Like, the materials that are being used are premium here. So now, personally, I do have an issue with paying over $200 for a non-race shoe, right? To me, if you're paying $200, then you're paying for a shoe that you would race in, or a shoe like a super trainer that you could race in, but you're going to get the large majority of your like race training miles or workouts in that shoe, because you're really looking for performance out of it. Now, this is a performance running shoe, but it's not on the same tier as most super shoes or super trainers. So for that, like, for me personally, like, the price point just is not it. But again, it sold out. So maybe I'm not 100%, other than the fact that I review shoes, right? Maybe I'm not 100% the target market for the shoe, and that's okay. But it very much is a running shoe. And I think that anyone who says otherwise probably hasn't run in it, or probably doesn't run in a lot of different shoes, or maybe they're just kind of being a contrarian because the shoe generated a lot of hype. I don't know, but I would say it's a valid running shoe. I've enjoyed my miles in it so far, and I'm going to continue to put miles on it. Some of those miles are going to be walking around, because I think it's a really good looking shoe. Now, just some final thoughts on the shoe. Obviously, like I said, I've enjoyed my experience with it. I was a little bit skeptical as well when I first saw it, like, how is that going to translate to actual running? When I saw the specs and saw the weight, I am not a heavy shoe guy. I really prefer something more light, more nimble. But this is a shoe where I didn't feel like I felt the weight quite as much as some others. I was pretty critical of the Glycerin Max and the weight in that shoe, as well as a shoe like the Skyward X, which was like a super max cushion shoe. I just felt like the overall weight of those shoes really drug them down. It was really hard to run in them. The combination of the Zoom X foam and the Zoom Air unit make this a very lively shoe, to where you get responsiveness, you get bounciness, where it doesn't feel quite as heavy. And I do think that that overcomes the overall heaviness for a daily trainer. Now, again, if you're trying to take this and go run some 400-meter repeats, I think you're going to struggle a little bit for a number of reasons. But, you know, all in all, I would say it's a real running shoe. I have enjoyed it. It's very fun. Probably wouldn't have paid $210 though if I had had to buy this, so I'm fortunate as a running shoe reviewer, obviously, to have gotten this one for free. Now, if you're still here, I sure appreciate it. Please go ahead, hit that like button, leave a comment, tell me what you enjoyed, or tell me what I could be doing better in these reviews to make them more educational, more interesting, more entertaining for each and every one of you. And as always, I'll leave you with a question, which is, what were your impressions of the Pegasus Premium if you were able to snag a pair? Do you feel like it lived up to the hype? Does it meet your expectations? And if not, where do you feel like it lacks? Let me know down below. Thanks, everybody.